Good morning, everyone. I hope you won't mind if I sit, because I'm getting old and my knees are not that good at my age. It's good to be here today, and Pastor Bobby just mentioned that I have 2 hours. I don't think that my English is that lengthy for me to speak for 2 hours. So let's say that I will speak about 45 minutes to an hour, and we can share together. I am by no means an expert in terms of Haitian culture, Haitian church, even though I grew up here. But I have a story, I'd say. First of all, let's say that I think I am able to at least start speaking about the Haitian church based on my family experience. I'm a third-generation Christian, third-generation preacher. My grandfather left the Catholic Church and the Anglican Church to start the Church of God and the Church of God of Prophecy. He was one of the pioneers of the Pentecostal movement here. And secondly, I've been working officially with churches around the country in the 10 departments from different denominations, from Methodists, Baptists, Mennonites, Pentecostals, Nazarenes, and you name it. You know that Haiti has a lot of churches from different theological backgrounds. So I've been working officially at my position in Micah Challenge for the past 5 years. So I got to know more and more the church of Haiti, getting to know more the leaders, what they are doing, and encouraging them as well to let more people know what is being done in their own personal circles. And the third thing is that I love history. So I've been reading about the church globally, but also reading about the church in Haiti. And I love sociology and philosophy, and theology. So I tend to combine all of those things and reflect a lot about it, and to, in a sense, to understand what's going on here in Haiti, because the church in Haiti, in a sense, is static and moving quickly. It's an oxymoron when you say that a church is being static and at the same time moving quickly, changing, shifting quickly. And this is my understanding of the church in Haiti. If you read French, if any one of you read French, I'd encourage you to have that new book from Edna Argenti. I think many of you guys know Jean-Edna Argenti. His father wrote that book. It was an old book, and he edited and added more a story about the Haitian church. It's a summary, I'd say, of the Haitian church's story. There's another set of books. That set of books are more old. Those books were written back in the 1960s by Quatre Pressoir. Those books go lengthily into the Haitian church's story. La Presse Évangélique in Pétionville, or Pastor Bobby, you can give them Edner's phone number. I bought that book from him.
The other book in French as well?
Unfortunately. But they will find books on the internet and articles on the internet about the churches in Haiti. There's a university teacher in the U.S. His name is Don Corbett. That's a good one. He's been doing a lot of work on Haiti's story, and he's an open guy. You can email him. I've been exchanging different emails with him. So he'll be trading with you. He'll ask you your personal story, how you understand things about Haiti, just to have a more feel of what you guys understand about Haiti, and he will pass down every information that he has, and his informations are first-hand information. Just to let you know, if you want to read more about Haiti's culture and Haiti's church history. We cannot talk about Haiti's church history without going back to the colonial times, when Christopher Columbus came here in 1494, and he promised Queen Isabella that every country he would discover, he will plant a cross, dedicating that country to the Catholic Church. And he did that in most of the countries that he had, quote unquote, discovered, in Latin America and a lot of countries in the Caribbean. So the first, I'd say, introduction of Haitians, but in those days, Indians, their first introduction to Christianity was done through the Catholic Church. And unfortunately, Christopher Columbus and his folks came in that island, Haiti, just to get gold. And by the time the gold digging ended, most Indians died, and he left to go to Latin America. Then a few years later, French, some people from France started to come to Haiti, but mostly in Île de la Tortue, back in the north, and began to live there, but they were not colonialists. They were mostly pirates, picking, every merchant ships that was around, and among them there was one Christian Protestant, but he didn't have a much influence on Haiti's, I'd say, relationship with Christianity. Then a few years later, now we're in the 17th century, in the 1620s. More French came in Haiti, and they started the colony, Saint-Domingue. And the fact that they found only some Indians who were not as strong as Africans, and the diseases that those Europeans, mostly Christopher Columbus and his folks, those diseases killed the Indians. So what they did is to go to on the west coast of Africa to pick African slaves from different tribes. And this is one of the, I'd say, particularity with Haiti. The French didn't pick slaves from one tribe. They picked slaves from different tribes. That's why when you travel across Haiti, you will find different complexions, you'll find different facial features, even different accents. Because from the north to the south, there were different tribes. That's why we have Creole. Because when the slaves wanted to fight the French, they had to have one common language that all of them spoke, since they were from different tribes, and not necessarily all of them could understand the different languages, and French was the common language, and they couldn't speak French, so they mixed up their dialects with French, with Indian, with Spanish, and we have now our beautiful pictorial language that we call Creole, which is I like to say, which is a stew. You put everything in it, and it's Creole, and it's really elastic.
Yes, it is.
So the Catholic Church still had a big impact on Saint-Domingue, and unfortunately, the priests used the Bible to show the slaves that they were not human, and they picked the story of Noah. Is it Noah that had the 3 sons? And you know the story. The 3 sons and so forth. It had a bad impact for Christianity, because the slaves thought that Christianity is the religion of the white man, and the white man enslaves us and uses Christianity to oppress us. So of course, back in 1791, we had our big revolution, and then in 1804, we kicked out the French. The Catholic Church still had a big impact on Haiti's culture. And the good thing that happened with the Catholic Church is the fact that most good schools were Catholic, and priests were among the people. But unfortunately, the Catholic the people living in Haiti didn't have a really good relationship yet with the Catholic Church. However, this will change years later. In 1816, we had our first English missionaries, and you can read that also in that book. And those missionaries were Methodists.
What year?
1816, under President Pétion, Alexandre Pétion. Those English missionaries came and spoke to Pétion, and what they realized, and I like what they said, is we cannot understand that country. Most people are living out of marriage bond. Living here, growing up, when I read that, I said, "Duh, this is something that obvious, because those slaves didn't really marry." I know a bit of the American history that was so impacted that by Christianity, where slaves married, but to us it was something normal that a man and a woman, and if you go to the countryside, you will hear so and so is the wife of so and so, and you say, "Oh yeah, when did they marry?" They never got married, but they've been living together for 25, 20 and 30 years. So, and that missionary spoke about the odd kind of way those Haitians were living, and the Methodist Church started by then. And for the rest of the 19th century, the Methodist Church would be the main church in Haiti. Of course, a few years later, Baptist missionaries came in, but historians would tell you that the Methodist Church led the Protestant movement in Haiti. And one would think now, how come the Methodist Church is not that strong in terms of numbers and representation? We will talk about that later. But the big boom of evangelicalism in Haiti would come at the 20th century, but mostly after the occupation of Haiti that ended in 1934. In 1915, the American government sent its soldiers in Haiti, and those soldiers left in 1934. So by then we had a big missionary movement in Haiti, and most churches that we know today came from that period. And the fact also that the Pentecostal movement in the United States started back in the early 20th century in Azusa Street in 1906. Those Pentecostals were aggressive in terms of a mission. And you also had the Southern Baptists and other Baptist missionaries really, in a sense, invaded the entire country, either in the north, in the south, and they started to evangelize. They started to plant churches. They started to plant orphanages, and that's where the big, as I told you, missionary movement started here in Haiti, and we would have what we have today, the configuration of the churches that we have. So by then, the most influential churches would be the Baptist churches in the south, with the MBSH, which is, I think, the biggest Baptist church in Haiti.
That's what I heard.
And the icon of that church is Shaban Jeune, who was a presidential candidate, and he came third in our before last elections, because I think he could have been Haiti's Billy Graham, because back in the days, let's say in the 90s, when that guy came on the radio to preach, people shook the fact that he had the ears and the hearts of Haitians. So in the south you had the Southern Baptist Mission. In the north you would have another group of Baptist missionaries and called Convention Baptiste, and you have the UEBH, of which Pastor Gentil is of, and UEBH is mostly in the northwest, Artibonite, and in west. So how did the Baptist missionaries configure themselves? One mission would take one part of Haiti and evangelize it. So the west, from west, that is Port-au-Prince, to the entire South Peninsula, you will find now MBSH. In the north, you will find Convention Baptiste. In the northeast, Artibonite, and west, you will find UEBH, and you will find another Baptist mission, I don't recall the name, in Plateau Central. That's how they did it. And they've been influencing a lot churches, but those Baptist missionaries focused a lot on medical care. Now you have one of the biggest hospitals in the northwest, Beraka, in theological formation. STEP is one of the leading seminary in Haiti, which is in Port-au-Prince. There's also Université Chrétienne du Nord in the north. That university has a master's degree, and you will also have Hôpital Bonnefin in the south with MBSH, and a lot of schools. One of the characteristics of the Haitian church is, whenever you find a church, don't look far to find a school. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go in the countryside, you will find a church and a school, and some churches a health facility. That's how the church was crafted, I'd say. Then you have a wider movement which is more indigenous, and it's the Pentecostal movement. And according to Edner Argenti, it's the most populated, I'd say, a movement in Haiti. You have first the Pentecostal, then the Baptist, then I think the Methodist or the Nazarenes. But something particular with the Pentecostal movement here, it is led by what theologians call the classical Pentecostals, because you have the classical Pentecostals and the charismatics. The classical Pentecostals are those Pentecostal churches that started back in Azusa Street in 1906, and you will find mostly two categories of Pentecostals. Those Wesleyan Pentecostals that believe that you need to be saved, sanctified, and baptized with the Holy Ghost, and among them are the Churches of God, and you have the Church of God in Christ, which is the first Pentecostal church that began in 1927. And you have the Church of God, you have the Church of God of Prophecy, and all the Churches of God. But the most known churches are the Church of God, the Church of God in Christ, the Church of God of Prophecy. Then you have the non-Wesleyan churches, and mostly the Assemblies of God here in Haiti. So we do not have a lot of charismatic churches. That is the charismatic movement, which began back in the 40s and the 50s in the United States. So let's say the configuration of the Pentecostal church is mostly classical Pentecostals, and I put that emphasis because I will talk about one of the characteristics of the Haitian church. It is a conservative church, quite conservative church. From the turn of the 20th century to now, the Haitian church has exploded. And people are fighting about numbers. Some say that, well, the church represents only 15% of the population. Some others say, no, it's 20%. And even others say 40 and 50%. But one thing that can be seen, at least around Port-au-Prince, you will find a church everywhere, and also you will find the Christian influence everywhere. Look at the tap-taps. All the God is good, Bon Dieu est bon, Jesus is Lord, and so forth. Or those songs that are being sang at every corner of the city. One thing, I don't have the statistics. A friend of mine who's the president of the Protestant Federation said it's about 50%. I won't go there because we don't know about that really. But the Protestant church is quite influential. And that church has invaded, I'd say, Haitian culture. One thing that needs to be said also with the big missionary movement is that the Methodists focused a lot on the elite of Haiti back in the 19th century. So you will find a lot of business people. You will find many politicians back in the 19th century who were Christians. But with the big missionary movement, the churches, and especially the Pentecostal churches, targeted the common people, what we would call the common people, those who are on the streets, and that's where the big boom began, because all those Baptist Christians, Methodist Christians, Nazarene Christians came out of the common folks in the cities. I spoke about the Pentecostal and the Baptist because they are the more influentials in the country. But years later, we will also have the Nazarene Church that has yes, different churches in Haiti, but also invested a lot in education. A lot in education. The Nazarene Church has invested a lot in education, and that church has also one of the biggest theological seminaries in the country, training church leaders. The Wesleyan Church is also influential, and its influence is mostly in West and in Lagonave. Most people in Lagonave know the Wesleyan Church because it's really influential there. Are there any other big denominations in Haiti? Yes, before I get to the characteristics of the Haitian Church, we cannot talk about Christianity in Haiti without linking the Protestant Church to the Catholic Church. And it's important to know today how the Catholic Church is influencing the population, how it is influencing the Protestant Church, and how the Protestant Church is influencing the Catholic Church. With the Council of Vatican II, to Americans, the Council of Vatican II doesn't mean a lot, because the Catholic Church is not that influential in your culture. But in Haiti and in the Latin American context, the Catholic Church is a church that needs to be followed because of its political and economic influence. So with the Council of Vatican II, when was it held? I think between the 50s and the 60s. the Catholic Church started to reevaluate itself. Because if I remember well, the first council was done back in the 11th century. The charismatic movement was rampant in the Catholic Church around the globe. The Catholic Church was losing ground in Latin America. And John 20 said we need to rethink and revamp and re-evangelize the Catholic Church. That's when big decisions were taken. Among others, Mass will be said in the language of the people instead of Latin. And that would bring the Catholic Church closer to the people, because Mass was being said in a language that nobody understood, a dead language. Secondly, the Catholic Church would be more open to the work of the Spirit. That's why, and it is an interesting part of the Catholic Church. You have the Catholic Church, but you have different fragments of Catholicism within the Catholic Church. Now you have the Catholic evangelicals, you have the Catholic charismatics, but that are still attached to the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church became also more open to let the South American theologians speak more. That's where the liberation movement, the liberation theology came forth, where priests in Africa and priests in Latin America began to say, well, yes, we are saying the Mass, yes, we are educating people, but what about those political problems that are happening in Latin America? And you will have different Catholic priests that would not only speak about Jesus, but that will contextualize the message of the gospel in the people's lives. And those priests would have a lot of problem with the officials. But that movement, the Council of Vatican II, would shift the entire church and make it more and make it closer to the Protestants. Now, before the Council of Vatican II, the Protestant Church and the Catholic Church wouldn't have a dialogue. But now you hear about different dialogues that the Catholic Church has with different fragments of religion, but also with the Protestants. What does that say to our context in Haiti? We will have what is called the small communities, where a well-known father, Jean-Bertrand Aristide, Petitide, who was the first democratic elected president in the country, used to lead those small communities. Because he studied also in Latin America, he picked up the liberation theology and started to question what was being done in the Catholic Church, to question also what was being done in the government. So the Catholic Church has been influencing the political arena, but also now Protestant Christians are saying the Catholic Church is influencing a lot the political changes that are happening in Haiti, but we have been a pacifist church. Can we stay on the sideline preaching about heaven only and not seeing what's going on in the ground? So more and more Christians are looking into what was done and what is being done by the Catholic Church. Lastly, beside the big denominations around the globe that are here, we have a growing indigenous churches, an indigenous movement where local churches are being born. And there's a phenomenon today that is called the Shalom Mountain, on Delma 33, which is one of the biggest. How can I? What adjective could I use? It's a big phenomenon. Someone who's never been a pastor, started a small church, and now he's having one of the biggest churches in Haiti, attracting thousands of people, and preaching a prosperity gospel. And now today, a lot of my friends who are leaders in the country are asking that question: how can that guy attract that many people? And we will see why. Today we have big churches that are preaching a more appealing type of gospel connected to our social condition. What is the characteristic of the church in Haiti? And I think is the most interesting part of our conversation today. First of all, I'd say that the Haitian church its characteristic is that it's a young church. Statistics tell us that the Haitian population is a young population, quite young. More than 50% of Haiti's population is less than 60. The second characteristic of the Haitian church is that it is led by young leaders. Micah Challenge conducted a survey recently, and the results showed that most churches are being led by pastors who are 45 and under. Most churches, and we had that survey in the 10 departments. So it's a young church led by young leaders. The characteristic of the Haitian church is that it's a praying church. I see either in Europe or in the United States that people are quite concerned. Even my own denomination, the prayer is being pushed a lot because they realize that leaders don't pray anymore. But here in Haiti, the Haitian church is a praying church for different reasons. Sometimes not because we love prayer, because prayer is the only thing that we have to solve our problems. You want money, you need to pray. For your kids to go to school, you need to pray. The fact also that Haitians are ongoing constant spiritual warfare. We need to pray. And for the past 10 years, a young, not young, a mature, petite lady started prayer cells around Port-au-Prince. And if you're driving around 5, and I say around Port-au-Prince, from Delma to Carrefour, Feuille, La Plaine, you will find at 5 a.m. in the morning, 5 a.m., churches packed with people praying from 5 to 7. You will find people who are going to school, people who are going to work, across the city and across the country. Now she told me that she started that prayer movement in Miami in Haitian churches. And I remember 2 to 3 years ago, I was asked to go to Carrefour to preach at one of the prayer meetings, and we had a hurricane. And my mother told me I had to sleep at my mother's. My mother told me, "Where are you going? It's raining." I said, "No, I'm going." And guess what? Under the rain, at 5 a.m. in the morning in Carrefour, I started to drive by different churches. All those churches had people praying on that Monday morning. And they call it prière du matin, morning prayer. I thought about what I wrote here, but I will say it anyway because I have mixed feelings about it. I'd say that also that the Haitian church is a poor church. but in terms of economic means. And you will find also that I will say that the Haitian church is a rich church. It is a poor church because of economic means. 72% of Haiti's population is living with less than $1. 72%. So most people you walk by on the street are living with less than $2 in their pocket. So, and the churches attract a large number of the population, and most people in those churches do not have a job, a formal job, and One thing also that characterizes the Haitian church, and this is the area of work for me, of not only an area of work but also an area of research, is that the Haitian church is a church that avoids politics. And when I say the Haitian church, whenever I say Haitian church, we are thinking about the Protestant/evangelical church. It's a church that is not involved in politics. And it was a good thing. And I say it was a good thing. When in 1957, a certain person called Dr. François Duvalier came in power, he told missionaries, you can come and preach the gospel in my country. As a matter of fact, I will let you need to plant. Someone told me that in the ministry of religion here, every pastor that is being ordained or that is given a national certificate to function has to sign a paper saying that I will foster education and health care. I heard that it was put by Mr. François Duvalier. Why was he so open to Protestantism? Not because he loved Christians, because he himself was neither a Catholic or a Protestant. He was a voodoo practitioner, because he had problem with the Catholic Church. And he had problem with the Americans. So the Catholic Church didn't like him. He had problem with the American government, and a lot of problem, yes, with the Haitian clergy. Well, with the church's clergy that was more international than Haitian. He did two things with regard to the church. He pushed Haitian clergy. So now, if we have Haitians leading the Catholic Church, it is because of François Duvalier. But also he opened the door for the Protestant Church because those folks were pacifists. They were not involved in politics. And the Catholic Church was involved a lot in politics. So, in a sense, it was good. The fact that Christians said, well, we are coming here to plant churches, to have schools, and to preach people the way to heaven. We won't bother the church here. But now, I believe, we cannot remain in that position anymore. Because the church needs also to influence society in every area, and not only telling people, well, just accept Christ and you'll go to heaven, when they're living in hell on earth. And now, the Haitian church is a evangelical/conservatist church. You will not find many liberal churches in Haiti in terms of theology. Most churches are evangelical, conservative churches here. And I know there's a lot of theological shifting happening in the United States and in Europe. And some of my friends, I know the tensions between their denominations in the United States and what's going on here. And they say, no way, Jose. We've studied in the United States. We know the theological perspectives. We know all of that. But what is going on in the States will never happen here. Because we are a conservative culture. And it transpires also in the churches. Haitian churches are evangelical churches / conservative churches. Unfortunately, the Haitian church also is influenced by animism, by voodoo. And we are not living in a vacuum. The same way that in every culture, the culture will influence the church in our own context. Voodoo is influencing also the Haitian culture. And the same way that some idioms, the same way that people will understand some idioms in the United States, in Australia, or elsewhere, just because you've lived in the country, there are certain things that will be common to someone who was not raised in Haiti that will ring a bell to a Haitian. For example, if you see a Christian drinking coffee, before that person drinks that coffee, he or she drops some coffee on earth. It is related to voodoo. Why? We are saluting those who we cannot see. I did I had all my schooling years in a Methodist school. From 3 to 18. Only a Methodist school. But I could not understand why the lady in the cafeteria was watering the steps of the cafeteria. And I told myself, I am in a Christian school. What's going on here? She was attracting luck in the morning. Even the way some people pray, it seems that they are appeasing God. Also related to voodoo. So it is a church that is influenced also by animism. I know today many church leaders are trying to refocus committed Christians, but who grew up so much and who left their former religion because either they were cursed, their kids were cursed. It seems that they cannot break loose and let God lead their entire lives, and they're saying, you never know. You never know. I better hold the black and the white candle. What works. But more and more people are saying, just break loose because God can protect you. And many of them say, you never know. Because their families were connected for generations with the spirits, and many of them, and some are my friends tell you, I was dedicated to that spirit, and it seems that even though that I'm a Christian, I'm receiving revelations, I'm receiving insights from those that I cannot see. The Haitian church is a dependent church and a church full of initiative. How can a church be dependent and at the same time full of initiative? And that's what I was saying. The Haitian church is a poor church and a rich church at the same time. We've been receiving missionaries for years. Missionaries investing in education, investing in orphanages, investing in building churches, investing in everything. And the result in part of that is having dependent churches, dependent church leaders who said, to build the next school, we need to have a blanc. I'm sorry, but you know how it goes.
We fit the mold.
Yeah. The fact that I'm not a blanc, or yeah,
it's okay.
I'm being called a blanc, but I know that I'm not. You guys are, yeah, I guess. We need a blanc. We need someone from the United States, and most people will say we have two kinds of blanc: the white blanc and the black blanc. Because if you're not Haitians, you are a blanc. Jamaicans are blanc, and Africans are blanc as well. But at the same time, when those churches receive a no from a blanc, or have struggled to find a white missionary, when they don't find that white missionary, guess what? Years later, you find a big building. And those pastors will tell you proudly, we did it. And I've worked enough with church leaders to know what they're doing now. And they said, well, we just did that. And we've searched for international help. We didn't find it, so we told the church, we serve a big God, let's put our hands together and let's build that. And you feel a sense of pride and a sense of ownership. That's why I said at the same time the Haitian church is a dependent church. That dependency mindset is still there. But when they don't find it, they work together and start schools and start churches. And some of the big buildings you find either downtown or Delma are debt-free, paid only by Haitians. Three last things. The Haitian church is moving towards to being more an indigenous entity that is led by Haitians, and led by Haitians from the theological perspective into the managerial perspective. And it's important to put the differentiation between those two elements, theology and management. More and more international denominations are passing the baton to Haitian leaders, and that has been happening around the 70s and the 90s. So it's rare to find a missionary leading a church and a denomination. Really rare. However, in terms of theology, it was dominated a lot by the more evangelical and conservative theology. But with the growing concern of violence, the growing concern of corruption, and Haitian leaders are saying, isn't it important for us to revamp the way we understand theology? Because we've been doing theology in the North American way, and many things that we are facing, they faced it, but back in the 19th centuries, and the church solved those problems. And it was the churches that solved those problems. That's why they don't address that in the theological books anymore. Because they have a strong democratic culture, so they don't need to speak about justice. They don't need to speak about integrity, because their political system is set for that. So when we're reading those books, we are reading a theology based from a North American perspective or European perspective, which solved many of those problems that we have now today. So if we keep doing theology the way that we're doing theology, we'll save people's souls, but to what extent? Because we have a lot of people in our churches, but they're Christians, or they're behaving like Christians on Sunday morning, but during the week there are some problems because we don't address the integrity issues, because we don't address the justice issues. So we need to rethink the way we're doing theology to have a more Haitian type of theology. Not that we will change everything, but we need to adapt those teachings to our realities. That's why Micro Challenge with Compassion and other leaders have been part of a movement that is studying justice, leadership, integrity, good governance, and the environment on a Haitian perspective, analyzing how Haitians understand justice, what the Bible what the Bible is saying about justice and how we can apply those biblical truths to our context. The Haitian church is a poor church and it's a generous church at the same time. You don't need to have a special expert in marketing to push people to give money in Haiti, because we have a soft heart. We have a hard heart and a soft heart at the same time. We have a hard heart because we've struggled, we've battled a lot. But at the same time, we have a soft heart. We cannot stand injustice and people suffering. That's why the Haitian church also is a generous church. And I've said it, the Haitian church is a conservative church. So, what's ahead? Really, nobody knows, because the Haitian church is a butterfly. It's changing, and it can change to the worse, and it also can change to the good. There are growing movements, unfortunately, that are using people, and those churches are getting bigger and bigger. And some of us are stressed because of that. But also, there's a growing sense of the church to be the light of the world, the salt of the earth. A growing sense of the church to really let God's kingdom be seen through her. So, there's a dark side in every one of us. So there's a dark side of the Haitian church, but also there's a good side of the Haitian church. And our prayer is that the good side of the Haitian church will enlighten those brothers and sisters who many times have a good heart, but are being misled. But as the Apostle Paul said, even if it's for good or even if it's for bad, the gospel is being preached here in Haiti. So thank you, and if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them.